te honi ta pena, te malanga halu, halu. Mo te ato ho lau, te ho lau, ho lau.
Kai lava Leota o mo le taimi fo I wai whaawhanua mai le ne yaso whai fo se whatatanua whatau lim taupu. We will be having our interview in English, but thank you so much for making the time to talk to me this afternoon. So I think the Pacific is aware that the SPREP meeting is now underway. And it's also your last meeting as Director General of SPREP. So I think it'll be great to hear from you, what are some of the key issues arising from this particular meeting?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for the opportunity to have this interview. In my opening remarks on Tuesday, if I can sort of provide a bit of context to the question, I said to members that the general picture of the environment in the Pacific is not good. What I mean by that is that we're continuing to see environmental degradation increase, whether it's pollution in terms of plastics, marine plastics, whether it's biodiversity loss, whether it's coastal development that has impacts on land, and then if it's climate change, then of course take your pick. Extreme weather events, flooding, sea level rise. There's lots of issues, and the irony of all of this is that whilst we recognize that there are these critical environmental challenges that are facing us, and we all agree that we must do something, right? And I think that there is, a genuine desire by members to do something about it. The irony of all of that is that things are not, in the overall picture of things are not improving. And that's it's not a negative, statement on members. I'm just saying that we're all committed. If you talk to members, they're all committed. We're all committed as a Secretariat, and we're doing our best to support the member countries. And I think that if you look at some of the work that some countries are doing, it's great. But the irony of that is that the reality is that we're continuing to see biodiversity loss. We're continuing to see, our coral being impacted, not just by ocean acidification, but by other, human activities, whether it be, outflow of activity from land that's making its way onto the ocean. It's plastics, it's degradation of land and so forth. So, and that's the frustration that I have is that we're putting in effort to address this, but the issues are not going away. They're in fact, being magnified. And so we really need to look at what we are doing to see, are we doing it right? Or do we need to do more of what is right that we're doing? So there needs to be, I think, a stock taking of what we're doing to try and see where we can actually, magnify, our protection efforts of the environment, so that then, we're seeing a lot more positive impact. So, as I said, that's not a negative statement. It's realizing what the reality is on the ground. And so that's the context of what I'm saying. So then, of course, you've got issues such as, wide-ranging issues being discussed at the SPREP meeting this week, on climate change, the work on the CBD, and the need to be engaged at the global level in terms of engagement, both at the UNFCCC and at the CBD. And if you take your pick, you look at climate change, global engagement on this issue, we really do need to be at COP26, despite the enormous challenges that we're faced with, let alone trying to get there. This transportation issue, accommodation issues, there's quarantine issues, insurance issues, flight issues, name it. There are all these, and that's not even considering the health and safety issues. So, but we have made a decision. We're going to send a small team, and I've pondered on that decision for a very long time, taking into account all of the potential risks. The idea that someone's going to come back with the Delta variant is not something you want to entertain. So, certainly we have thought very, very hard about that in terms of our attendance. We've been meeting almost every day, evening meetings for the last 2 or 3 months with member countries, with the UK COP presidency, New Zealand, Australia, member countries, heads of delegations. It's nonstop. And so, but I felt that this is probably the last, maybe, I hope not, this may be the last opportunity for us to actually influence the negotiations in terms of actually trying to make the Paris Agreement, accords work. In other words, there's still outstanding work on the implementation of the Paris Agreement provision. So that needs to be, there's still some outstanding work that needs to be done. So if we're not there, we can't blame ourselves later on then. So that's a major issue. And so at the moment, we have about 50% of the countries wanting to go and 50% not sure. And I understand, we've done all that we've done. We've provided surveys, we've provided assessments, provided technical advice. And we're working very, very closely with, with Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, and all of our member countries to try and in terms of the scenario of being there, what do we need to do to address the risks and the challenges? And this is not even thinking about the substantive, it's trying to get ourselves there. That's the first, major issue. And then when we get there, we are not going to have the full Pacific constituency there. And that's another concern. So even if we attend with half, so if we attend, it looks like we'll attend with half of our membership. The question then is, how do we support this small group of leaders that have decided to go, and within very challenging circumstances that we are going to be there? So that's just an example of that. Then there's other issues, in terms of seabed mining. That was probably the most contentious issue this year. There were those countries that were concerned about the issue and did not want it discussed. They wanted it off the agenda. And I had a lot of letters coming to me in the last week. In some of those letters, very strong language, about, putting it off the agenda. Why are we bringing it on again since we discussed it in 2019? And my point was to, especially to those countries that are sponsoring states on deep sea mining, is that this is the role of SPREP. This is why you mandated us as the environmental agency of the region to raise these critical environmental issues. We're damned if we don't raise it. We're damned if we raise it. But, I made a point. No, I'm going to raise this issue. Why? Because even since 2 years ago, the reports that are coming to us, including the State of the Environment and Conservation Report of 2020, paints a very negative impact of environmental degradation right throughout. The indicators are not good. So why shouldn't I raise that issue? And as I said, those who are sponsoring states of our member countries, some, not all, but some, are concerned that by doing that they might be exposed. But that is never the intention. Our intention is to raise the issue and then let them discuss. Even if there are difficult, sensitive issues, we should not be shying away from it. And I've always believed in the Pacific way, where you still have a talanoa over these difficult issues, but we don't shy away from it. Because then what if the scenario of major environmental impact occurs from seabed mining? Then someone says, what was that organization doing? Why did the members of that organization never? And so and that's the point, So yes, it was a very sensitive, very difficult issue to discuss. But I pushed back against our own members, at the cost of being almost ostracized, because I felt strongly about it. Why shouldn't we discuss this issue? This is not about pointing fingers. This is about saying, listen, we have an issue. Let's come to the table. Let's have a talanoa. Let's try and. So they managed to find a way yesterday. It was a compromise. It was not the optimum solution from my perspective. But what encouraged me was the fact that we proved that we can have a talanoa around these difficult issues. And we may not get the perfect solution, but it proves that if we're prepared to sit down and accept that these difficult issues need to be discussed, we can do it. So I'm sorry I've gone on and on a bit.
No, I want to follow up on this issue of deep sea mining. Given the calls for moratorium and the strong pressure that you've received by some countries to not even have this on the table, how did the discussions go in the end? Was there a strong pushback from member countries?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the reference to a moratorium had to be removed because there was absolutely no way the sponsoring states in the region they were threatening to actually not attend SPREP meeting and threatening all kinds of stuff. And, the response was pretty, from some, it was pretty, I think it was a bit overboard. I understood their concerns. But my thinking is this: if we don't talk about it, and we just assume that, it's our national position, and no one's questioning that. We're just saying that, hey, we've got an issue here. How can we work together to try and resolve this issue? That was the whole essence of the approach. But that was taken to mean that, I was undermining their national interests. I was showing disregard for their government. That was the kind of thing I was getting. And the threat of political pullout and all of that, so it was completely unnecessary. They didn't need to, convey those kind of messages. All they needed to say is that we don't agree, but we're prepared to sit down and have a chat. But, before we even sat down to talk about it, there was all this heavy stuff coming. I didn't want to stalemate at the SPREP meeting, so I pushed for Friends of the Chair, led by French Polynesia, and there was a good attendance. About 13, 14 member countries put their hands up straight away. We decided to set up this Friends of the Chair right at the beginning because I didn't want it to be lingering. You got to take the heat out of this to try and. So that's what we did right at the beginning when we talked about the adoption of the agenda. I put forward a suggestion to set up the Friends of the Chair. And they had about, 3 or 4 meetings since Tuesday. And they managed yesterday to come to a compromise. I think there's something there for the sponsoring states. There's something there for those states that are not in favor of seabed mining. So, but for me, it's not 100% ideal. It's a compromise. But for me, more importantly, is the fact that we have proven that we can sit down and have a difficult discussion around a difficult issue without saying no, forget it, don't put it on the agenda because that's against our national interests. Even before we started, those are the kind of comments I was getting and accusations, and so pretty strong stuff. But I was happy that we were able to prove that we didn't have to be so negative and pointing and there was no finger pointing. That was the good thing about the friend of the chair. There was an honest, open discussion. And there was no saying, oh, because of your policy, this is what's going to happen. None of that happened. But it was an open, frank discussion. So we got a result. As I said, it's not 100% perfect in terms of, from my perspective, but the idea is that this is about the Pacific way, the Talanoa, in terms of how we can resolve issues.
Isi mo tupe fa moli Samoa au tapuni ai ofisa mo le fava yaso fa nga nei lola na wa una forward ta o le direct transfer a fai wa yesa membership card ma e fa nga ina le internet banking o le matua e fai ngo fi lava na le tiposi mai lava lo se leni mato account o na fa atino le la foina lo se leni mo a inga I Samoa e ia inga I tahu na fa maleina mo nisi fa matalanga le nei au una fo bala au le telefoni o val se lau o tasi ono po le lua fitu ono fitu iwa fitu fa pe text mai fo ilo suafa I le valu tolu o.
Telephone voucher is one of the most convenient ways that I'm finding now to do my shopping here at Mama Joe, and my sister just sent through the voucher on my cell phone, and I just come straight to Mama Joe to do my shopping.
Ole si tulanga tukusili ole tau. Ole la ko me ole pa tala olo. Ona pa ngale pa tau I olo e nga mo ainga.
I think it's really convenient for families overseas if they don't know how to help their families here. Then this is the perfect way.
Mai ele sa so ko tau ele sia sa.
Ni fia foi sa we mo mawina ni foi au nang fo ala mai le talo for voucher. Ila wana fa tau ma me te mga oi. Ile voucher.
Dai mo le talo pa voucher. O mo e posisio se o fine. Tos para loa fai ngo fie. A me se le tfelwa I mala telefoni. Tai mi uma. Ai lo la ko merkes ona ino do tamaore ainga.
Fa te tu lava le talo for voucher mo le foi au nang fo fa tai. Na lu langa le tampai.
Pa tai talo pa voucher.
Teki talo for voucher. Tau tua male au nanga remote tau sa mo service station nei tona I matu. Ma tau tuina lo ta vale, ma le tele o nisi o matu au nanga ese. Ai le ngata foile, ma tau te sia ke ina fo ila ta vale. Siapa lah yang foi suau, mau lah ucapan. Apa itu awal baik pak ulusan? Awalnya telefon, matu tu siapa lah yang foi mau lah ucapan. Mulu no posilah pia, mua tapi lah ucapan le peaut. Mua tapi lah telefon ni time meut tu inai lah ucapan. Malah baik ngam mulu. Mana tua fo e matua I pasa ina lo tau maktapa ai no fuanga pa te Ota Samoa ole mota mo Samoa ma do te fia e au na pe mo o Samoa Paftaila fia mai. We'll see you again. God bless.
sounds like a pretty interesting and exciting day for you yesterday then.
I think exciting is putting it a bit mild.
Well,
Yeah.
I think just on, if I can just pick up on I know you have to go back to the meeting, but if I could just pick up on your references to the COP. So there's been calls for the COP to be postponed. There's been calls by some member countries to say you need to be there. Islands need to be there. And on the other hand, the postponement call is to make sure that islands are represented once a full meeting can be held. And as you have illustrated already, and in the past experience of Pacific countries, it's already an issue to get delegations to the COPs. But now it seems by what you're sharing, it's even worse. So how, what's the consensus here? You said it's half-half, but is it worth it? Is it worth?
That's it. Yeah. No, that's a very good question, because I kept asking myself, is the effort worth, is it worth our effort in terms of, and I've had to think very carefully about that, because as I said, I don't think COVID's going to go away. I don't think so. So the idea of we wait until such a time when, I don't think that's ever going to happen. That's my, right at the beginning of COVID, people were talking about a post-COVID. Well, it ain't post-COVID, and it won't be post-COVID for a long, long time. We've got to stop this, how do you say, assumption that there will be a post-COVID. There won't be a post-COVID. COVID is here to stay. Look around, right? So as to when there will be an ideal time to meet, I don't think there will. Things might get worse. So from that perspective, I felt no. On the balance of things, we could decide, and the other thing is that the UK is very firmly firm on the decision to have a face-to-face, and they are not budging on canceling it or deferring to next year. That's the call they've already made. So whether we like it or not, I think we have to attend this, firstly, because I'm not sure whether there's a next time in terms of whether we're able to travel. And secondly, I'm not sure whether there's a next time where we're able to convey our strong sentiments and our own views on this issue. And thirdly, we keep postponing it. The issue is continuing to, the issue of climate change, it continues to be highlighted and becomes even more difficult. And, the attention of people are beginning to focus on other things other than climate change. And yet our leaders keep saying this is the most serious threat to our livelihoods and to our survival and so forth. So it's for those reasons, on the balance of everything that we've had to consider in terms of the health and safety, accommodation, flights, being stranded. We did all of our homework assessment. We've been doing that for the last two and a half months. And we've done it very closely with members. And so where's the Pacific in terms of whether we go or not? It's a 50-50 situation at the moment. We have about 6 or 7 countries, leaders who have decided to go, and the other 7 leaders have decided, they haven't said no. It just said, we'll wait and see. But, I had to make a decision about whether SPREP attends because, first of all the available rooms were being taken up. The flight costs were going up, and we needed to have a clear direction so that we can make preparations. I couldn't keep putting it off and not giving our team a certainty in terms of what our position. So I had to make that decision. But I understand where countries are coming from, particularly those who are very concerned. It's not an easy decision to make. So I feel for them. But that's where we are at the moment. 50% of leaders have said yes, they're going. The other 50 said no, we'll wait and see.
Well, I hope it goes well for our leaders. 5 minutes to the half hour that I scheduled for you. This is your last meeting, and I wanted to kind of ask Leota, the person, the man, the father, the husband, how has your tenure as SPREP DG been?
A very interesting question. You know, in my opening remarks, I just suddenly got emotional, you know, for a moment. And I realized that, you know, I was coming to the end of my time. Sorry. No, SPREP's been my family. I'm very close to my staff, and I treat them as family. I treat them just as I treat my children, you know, my family, and sometimes I probably treat them a lot better than my family. Anyway, so, you know, it only dawned on me on Tuesday at the opening. I said, wow, you know, this has been, you know, I spent 6 years as DG, but before that, I had 5 or 6 years as a deputy. So I spent 12 years at SPREP. It's been to me more than just a job. In fact, it's been more than a job. It's been, and as I said, it's like family. I made friends. You know, I benefited from it. I'm a lawyer, not a scientist, but I feel like I'm a scientist. And if I had another chance, I tell you, I'd do science rather than law. And so I've been pushing my kids to all, you know, go towards science. I have a daughter's now doing marine science, you know. You know, it's a privilege, Lagipoiva. It's a privilege. It's an honor to serve the region through SPREP. It's been my privilege to serve the countries, part of SPREP, the leaders, and an honor to work with colleagues from all over the region. I have benefited intellectually, you know, financially. You know, I'm not a person for titles and status, but, you know, I've had the favor of men where I didn't expect, and shown, you know, goodness and grace extended to me where I felt I didn't deserve it. So, but my goal was to make sure that I left SPREP in a better way than I found it. And that's not a swipe at my predecessor, David. David did a tremendous job of pulling SPREP out of the pit. And I used that to build on that. And SPREP's not perfect. You know, we still have a lot of things to do and a lot of things to improve on. But I've seen major changes. And I've been, I've seen SPREP grow in so many ways in terms of its reach, in terms of its, its staff complement. When I started, we had about 50 staff. We now have about 120. We now have offices in Fiji, an office in Vanuatu. We have a presence in the Solomons, and that's going to continue to grow. Our budget is almost tripled since I've been here. Those are good things, but the enormous challenges, the challenges still remain. And so I hope that I've put SPREP in a better position for whoever's coming to, succeed me. So that's always been my goal. I want a better SPREP when I leave than when I found it. And I think SPREP is slightly better now. but there's a but there. There's still a lot of work to be done. It's not perfect. I think we're on the right path, but there are some things that we just need to work on. I think that's so. Yeah. So I leave with a bit of sadness, but I cherish my time here. I'm grateful. I'm humbled by the opportunity to serve the region.
And just what is the one, like, just give me one highlight that you have, that you look back in the past 12 years, what's like a highlight for you? It doesn't have to be anything serious. Like, what's something that you'll remember from the 12 years?
There's so many Lagipoiva,
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Yeah, one of the things I've always said here at the Secretariat is that the most important asset in any organization is not as if it's infrastructure, it's not its funding, but it's the people. The people is at the center of any organization, and that's what makes an organization, prosper, grow. It's the people. It's not the policies. It's not the infrastructure, as I said. It's not the funding, and so all of those things are important. But without the people, then really you're not able to even move from step 1 to step 2. So I've seen staff grow. I've seen staff, really aspire to be better, and I've seen them, do well. I've seen young junior staff moderate, at COP a couple of years ago, a leaders panel, and I remember that I was sitting there watching and said, that's what I want to see. I want to see my staff step up, take the challenge, and know that they can better themselves. And if I've done that, or if I've provided the platform for them to do that, so that then they can move on to the next stage in their life, then I'm happy, so there's many others, but I guess I'm a people-focused person. I sincerely desire the best for my staff, and I don't know what they think about that, but that's always good.
I'm sure they only have great things to say. And now, finally, what are your plans after you leave SPREP?
I'm gonna go and farm.
Improve the plantation?
Absolutely. I'm from Hawaii, you're from Hawaii, and we're people of the land. My dad was, even though he was a scientist, he was a farmer. When he retired, he went back to the land. I'll probably do a little bit of that. Still, I've not applied for any job. I can't, I'm not sure. I mean, I'll still have to find something to feed my kids because they're still at school, and I still have to look for something. But in terms of a career like SPREP, I've not done anything, or I've not looked. I've just been focused on, I don't, in my last years, it's very easy to kind of just step back and take it easy, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to start strong, finish strong, lots of people start off really strong, but finish off really poorly. That was not my intention. So I will do a little bit of farming. I'll go to Hawaii, and but I'll give myself a bit of a break, and then maybe just look for something else to just help the family and feed the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, Fatai Lava, Leota, I really appreciate your time, and good luck with the rest of the meeting.
Te honi la pena, te malanga, halu. Morte a toho lau, te ho lau.
Mama avenga le nei ma le Pacific Isi mo tupe fa momoli Samoa a tapuni ai ofisa mo le fava yaso fa nga nei lolna wa una forward ta o le direct transfer A whai wa yesa membership card ma e whaongaina le internet banking o le matua i whaingo fia lava. Na o le tipose mai lava lau se leni ni matua account o na whaatino leo la foina o lau se leni mo a inga i Samoa. E ia inga i tahu na whaamaleina. Mo nisi whaamatalanga i le nei au nanga fōu. Wala au le telefoni o walu se lau o tasi o nono po le lua fitu ono fitu iwa fitu wha. Pe text mai fo ilo suafa i le valu tolu o.
Telephone voucher is one of the most convenient ways that I'm finding now to do my shopping here at Farmer Joe, and my sister just sent through the voucher on my cell phone, and I just go straight to Farmer Joe to do my shopping.
Ole si tūranga pitusili o le tāu. Ole lafo me o le pepa tala o loa. Ona whaanga le e whaatau ai o loa e au ngā mo le ainga.
I think it's really convenient for families overseas if they don't know how to help their families here. Then this is the perfect way.
Mai ai le fasa, suma kua tau e lesi a fasa.
Le fia po i sau e mo mawina le foi au ngang fo e ala mai le talo for voucher. Ila wana whaatau ma me te mga oi ile voucher.
Tai mo le talo pavata, ua maua le apasusi o sewa fine. So si paro loa whaingo kie, a me se le te wherua i malau telefoni. Tai mi uma, ai lo le lako merkes, o na inu e nor tamao le ainga.
Whapea tu lava le talo for voucher mo le foi au ngang fo whaatai. Ngā lua lava le tampai.
Tai talo pavata. Teki talo pavata.